Have you ever met the connector? Well, he ponders, he helps, he creates, he writes, he speaks. He basically connects people and brings them together. I speak about Paul Solano of PS and All Marketing Group. At psandallmarketinggroup.com, you will receive an assembled group of Paul's contacts and connections that cross into many sectors of life. Please contact Paul Solano at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com if you are in the market for a wide array of services. Again, please contact The Connector, Paul Solano at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com with any questions. And now, here's Paul Solano, the host of Paul Ponders.
Welcome to Paul Ponders. My name is Paul Solano of PS and All Marketing Group, and I may be reached via email at paul@paulponders.com. Thank you for joining me for my foray into podcasting. It is great to be collaborating with my friend and associate Chalonzo Amos of PodPro Entertainment to bring you some fun, exciting, and informative podcasts. For many years, I've been referred to as the Connector, or in Greater Boston circles as the Connector. With psandallmarketinggroup.com, I've created a side gig to connect you and get things done. Please sit back and relax and listen to today's podcast. If you are driving or operating heavy machinery and just listening, then please just listen and stay focused on your task at hand. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy my ponderings. Let #PaulPonders begin. Greetings, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Hope all is well. Welcome back to another episode of #PaulPonders. Thank you so much to all my subscribers. I will say that the list of subscribers is increasing, and I want to thank you all for rating, for subscribing, for just really being part of the Paul Ponders, #Paul Ponders Network, and also for logging into my website, PS and All Marketing Group. Special thanks and shout out to Techie Chalonzo Amos in the booth, just doing a great job. And it's great to be part of the PodPro Entertainment Network. It's a great platform. Thanks again for really just being part of this wonderful, wonderful forum. So people are stopping me. They're saying, Paul, the interviews you've been doing have been really great. You've had James Norris on. You've had the C. Swerters, Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. You've had David Hart from Malden Rotary. It seems like you really have a very non-profit organization type of slant. And I said, well, I've been on many boards throughout the years and all, but I will say, quite honestly, at all times that one of my favorite, probably most favorite board that I've been on is a board called Tailored for Success. So this episode is going to focus in on Tailored for Success. And with me on this podcast, I introduce our guest, the founder and executive director of Tailored for Success, Elizabeth Liz Hart. Liz, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's great to have you on. Really, it's a great organization. We go all the way back to when I remember you were in Malden Square, when I think you were in the Dowling building way back when, and I used to see each other and your husband David Hart, one of my alums from Malden Catholic, way back in the day when I worked at Malden Catholic. And I was really intrigued to really just find out about Tailored for Success. So if you want to tell our audience, what exactly is Tailored for Success?
Oh, sure. I'd be glad to. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, we do go back quite a ways. And I do want to also thank you for your time on the board of directors of Tailored for Success. I really appreciated your wisdom and your talent. So Tailored for Success is a nonprofit organization that I started in 2000 to assist job seekers with clothing for interviews. That was the original mission. And since the founding of Tailored for Success, I've expanded it to not only include clothing, but also workforce development, job readiness services. And originally we were just serving women, but now we're serving men and at-risk youth with these services, whether they need clothing, whether they need help with their resume, whether they need help with interviewing. Interviewing preparation really is our specialty. Clothing is really just the carrot that I use to get them in the door and become clients. But once they're in, then we work on the soft skills that they need to find a job, to interview well, and to get a job offer and ultimately become employed.
That's great. It's a great mission. Do you have a physical location? How does this work?
Yeah, so we actually do now. We have had many locations in and around the Malden area. Malden is where we're based out of. But during the pandemic, I had to close my offices for a while, for actually 2 years. I was running everything out of my home. But now I'm located again on Pleasant Street in the Dowling building, right back where I started, with a small office really just for administration. But my career closet and the clothing is all located on site at Mass Hire at their Woburn location. And I'm looking forward to opening up a closet at their Cambridge location this spring.
Oh, that's fabulous. Now, what are some of the constituencies you would work with typically?
Yeah, sure. So I think people typically think that we work with only low income individuals, but since the pandemic, it's been the gamut of low income career changers, people who have significant experience who had to transition out of a job because of the pandemic. I work with women, men of all ages. Ages start usually around 18 to all the way up to 65 now. Everything has really changed. It's no longer the single mother that I started with, my target in the beginning, but it's just anyone who's in job search that needs a little bit of help. A lot of people are looking for professional business clothing for interviews or, to start an internship, and it's really expensive to find that clothing in department stores now, so they come to me and they need brushing up on their interview skills.
Hmm, very interesting. Now, I remember from my days on the board, I would often go into the State House for a wonderful, wonderful day at the State House. And if you want to tell our listeners about what that was all about.
Oh, yeah, sure. So several years ago, we had an event for veterans at the Boston State House. It was called Boots to Suits, and it was sort of the kickoff to the current Boots to Suits program that I have now that works with primarily women veterans, but all veterans. And at the State House, what we did was we were in the Hall of Flags and we brought in suits. We have vendors from the veterans community, but also just from the general public that were looking to help veterans. Veterans were able to meet with the vendors, also have workshops on career development topics, and get a suit while they were there. And at one of the events, we had two events there. And one of them, we had a professional headshot photographer there, Norman Gillet. He donated his time, and all the veterans who were there got free headshots. And it was really a remarkable event that could not have been done without volunteers. You were there, other members of the board were there, but also we had volunteers from TD Bank that were helping, because on one of the events, we served over 100 veterans one day.
I remember that quite well, and I really remember many of the veterans just giving you and others so many thanks and so much appreciation. So much love was in that Hall of
Yeah.
Flags, and it really was just a very powerful experience.
Yeah,
Now,
we were, oh, I'm sorry. We
no,
were
no,
really
no.
lucky because the New England Shelter for Veterans was right in the area. So veterans could come over from their shelter and get clothing. More than one person remarked that it was the first time they had been in a suit in a really long time and how it boosted their self-esteem. And that's really the core of the mission, is not just to give suits and make people look good, but to boost their self-esteem and their self-confidence and their ability to believe that they can succeed in the workforce.
Super. That is really great. Now, when I think back to another event that I worked with you on, was something on the other side of Boston, I believe over by Northeastern. I believe that there was something going on over there. So if you want to let our listeners know about that one.
Yeah, sure. So at that event, Taylor for Success partnered with the United Way, and they did what they call Project Connect. And they brought in nonprofit service agencies in and around the greater Boston area and invited the public in to find out about the services and what services were available. And we were able to bring clothes into that event also, and it was at the Reggie Lewis Center. And we were able to do a pop-up career closet there and serve many, many people, over 100 people in a span of a couple of hours. And it was really great to be able to bring the clothing to the people so that transportation to the career closet didn't have to be an issue. I'm hoping that now that COVID is not gone, but is letting up and people are getting out again, that the United Way is going to do that again, so that we can participate in that event again, because it was a really great event and a really great way to see the people and to get them what they needed.
That's fabulous. Now, I remember an experience you had with some of the anchors from Channel 7.
Yeah, that was great. Just as we were setting up our career closet at Mass Hire, which is located in Woburn, we hadn't actually moved in yet, but I was contacted by one of the anchors there, and she wanted to do a drive for us. And so we did it. Whenever I do a drive, a company or whoever wants to do a suit drive, I always say that they have to bring the clothing to me because I'm a small nonprofit. I'm the only staff member. And so it's really difficult for me to go and rent a van and get the clothing. So Kimberly Bookman was the anchor who was the lead on this. She brought all her anchor friends, Brian Gano and many others, famous people that you would recognize, brought clothing to the storage unit, and we were able to really outfit the new career closet at Mass Hire based on their help. So it was really great of Channel 7 to do. It was perfect timing for her to reach out to me, and we got a ton of clothes. That was really wonderful.
That's fabulous. That's really great. Now, have you worked with various constituencies? I sort of recall the sheriff's office in Suffolk County.
Yeah, so we worked with Suffolk County Sheriff a while back, where we work with people who are returning from incarceration. Returning citizens is what we call them. And for a while, my husband David and I were teaching customer service skills at a location near Northeastern again. We set up a little satellite career closet there where we brought in suits and shirts and pants and things for the male population. They went through the customer service training, and then they got hands-on training in retail operations because of the clothing there. It was really good to be able to work with them because, as you can imagine, when you're coming out of incarceration, getting a job is very difficult, but the retail industry is sensitive to that, and getting a job in the retail industry is a little bit easier for them. They will take people with criminal backgrounds. And so we were able to give them on-the-job training so they could say they already have the experience going in when they're finally released and are looking for a job.
That's great. Now, I suppose that, and I sort of know your history, but I want our listeners to find out more about you. 20 years ago, you just didn't wake up one day and set this organization. What did you have for a career before you started TFS?
Yeah, it's funny. So my prior life, I was a intellectual property paralegal at a big law firm in Boston, several actually. I did patents and trademarks and had no intentions of starting a nonprofit, but was watching 60 Minutes one day and heard about Dress for Success in New York and thought, wow, that's a really great thing, giving suits to women who needed it, who were transitioning off welfare. And I said, geez, you know what? I don't think there's anything in the Malden area like that. Maybe I can do a little service project, air quotes, and just see if there's an interest. And so my husband David and I started collecting suits, and the rest is history because I really found my passion. Whereas before I thought law was going to be my passion, that I was going to be an attorney, and my path was set, but I took a little detour to do this service project, and that was it. My husband still cries about the day I left my high-paying job to join the nonprofit sector, but he's been really supportive. I joke about that, but he knows how much I love it. Being an intellectual property paralegal was very interesting, very high paying, very high stress. Since I knew both patents and trademarks, I was blessed enough to be in high demand for my skills. So
That's fabulous. But if you look back and you see all the lives that you have touched over the course of 20 plus years, you and your board members have just done an incredible job. And again, I really enjoyed my time on the board. And unfortunately, term limits,
yes.
just got me off the board. But
That's
it's
okay.
something
You can always come back.
There we go. That's it. Yeah, I'll be that bad penny that always comes
That's
back.
okay.
Right there,
That's
we
okay.
go. So you've talked about TFS, but you've been involved with other nonprofits too. And I could think of, we'll start off with Zonta. So tell us about Zonta.
Yeah. So actually through Tailored for Success, I was invited to speak at the Zonta Club of Malden to talk about Tailored for Success and what we're doing to help women. And they invited me to be a member, and it's a service organization that focuses on specifically, primarily women's issues here in the United States, but also around the world. And they have members in over 2,000 countries, and it's just an amazing organization. And I started as a member, but I ultimately became president of the club and then rose to District 1 governor. Zonta is arranged in 32 districts, and I was District 1 governor, which encompassed the New England states. And so Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Canada, Nova Scotia was actually also part of my territory. So I have been a Zonta for over 20 years, as long as I've been running Tailored for Success. It's been wonderful. It really has. It's been great to be able to focus on women's issues. And although I'm not governor any longer, I am the District 1 United Nations chair. So I get to be involved in my other passion, which is United Nations and what they do to help in countries where women aren't so fortunate.
That's really powerful stuff. Now, you must be able to really parlay what TFS does with what Zonta stands for. I believe there's a conference in the future, or in the past you've had conferences.
Yeah, so every year in celebration of Women's History Month in March, when this podcast is being taped, we try to do a conference to empower women. And we had one where we had over 30 women attend, and the president of ABCD, which is the vendor for Mass Hire in the Metro North region, was our keynote speaker. And we had speakers on wellness, on financial literacy, and how to dress for your body type. And it's really just a way for women just to take a little time out of their daily routine and focus on them, and know that they're surrounded by other women who want to help them also. So the mission of Zonta is empowering women, and so is Tailored for Success. So it was a really good synergy there.
That's awesome. That is really great that you're able to do that and really just make a difference in so many lives. Now, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and they are awesome.
Thank you. Thank
you. Liz Ponders.
Yeah.
Ponders.
So during the pandemic, I actually took a free class on how to do a podcast and thought this would be fun to do. And I really liked it. And so my podcast is called Pivot Point, Success is a Journey. And I focus on telling the stories of people who have made pivots in their lives, just like I did, right? Going from law firms to nonprofit sector. And I've had some guests where a woman went from working in the financial industry to starting a cookie business, and a gentleman who was a teacher decided to become a photographer. And I've also been able to bring in the women's issues too, where I've interviewed a domestic violence survivor who started a nonprofit. So it's been really interesting. I'm in my second season now and thinking of where I want to take it next. Every season I try to do something a little bit different. So last season I focused a lot on job readiness skills and not so much on the stories. And this season I'm trying to think of something different.
It's always great. It's great to be thinking outside the box and just making it happen in life. And again, just making a difference in so many lives.
Thank you.
And you really have, Liz. And congratulations on your 20 plus years with Taylor for Success.
Thank you.
You've done an awesome job. So how do our listeners get to contact you?
Yeah, so I'm on every social media platform under Taylor for Success, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I've got a wonderful social media manager who keeps posts going all the time. But the best way to reach me is through our website, tailoredforsuccess.org, and it's tailoredforsuccess.org. And if you want to join our community, there is a contact form there that you can fill out, or you can find out what workshop is coming up or what event is happening, and just stay up to date on the work that we do.
That's great. And is it possible to call you if you have any questions?
Yeah, sure. 781-324-0499 is the main number. You can always leave a message there. The phone goes straight to my cell phone, so I know when people are calling. And either I or a volunteer will get right back to you. I do have a physical location, but I'm still virtual, so I'm open 24 hours. So just shoot me an email or just call at any time and we'll be able to help you.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom for any potential job applicants?
Yeah, I think just remain focused and don't give up hope. The economy in terms of job seekers, there's a lot of jobs out there, but employers are looking for skilled workers. The lower skilled work positions are being taken up by machines and automation and things like that. But I think if people focus on their soft skills, communication, teamwork, organizational skills like that, then they'll be able to find a position anywhere, because employers are willing to train now where they weren't before. But if you have really good soft skills, then you could probably get a job pretty much anywhere now, as long as you're willing to learn. And, as long as it's something that's not so specialized where you need certain coding ability or whatever. But employers are really open to training. They want to get the right person in the job and then work with them. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. If you're not on LinkedIn, you really have to be, because that's where everything is happening. Facebook is good for socializing, but the business community is on LinkedIn. And so you need to focus your time there. And I always tell people to connect with me, say that you heard the podcast on Paul Ponders and we can connect. I like to pay it forward and connect people to other people that could help them. So feel free to connect with me.
So you too are a connector.
Connector, yes.
Alrighty. And that you are. After all
Thanks.
these years, you really are. You're so great at what you do. So Liz, I thank you for being with us on this episode and look forward to having you on again in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And you still have to come on my podcast. So we'll be talking again soon.
Alrighty. I look forward to that. That's
all right,
great.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, great to have you on. So again, everyone, thank you for subscribing and just checking in and rating us, reviewing us, and just tuning in on all the various podcasts that we've been offering. And this really is a lot of fun. We look forward to seeing you again. Don't forget to log in to paulponders.com or psnlmarketinggroup.com and check us out. So until we meet again, everyone, thanks for listening. #Indeed. I trust that you have enjoyed Paul Ponders. Again, my name is Paul Solano of PSNL Marketing Group, and I may be reached via email at paul@paulponders.com to do some more pondering. Many thanks to my longtime collaborative friend and associate, Alonso Amos of Pod Pro Entertainment, in bringing you our fun, exciting, and informative podcasts. You rock, Techie Alonso. With P&S and All Marketing Group, I created a side gig to connect you and get things done. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me at paul@paulponders.com with any questions. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Paul Ponders. Follow us on Twitter at Paul Ponders Pod. Follow us on Instagram at Paul Ponders Podcast. Thank you again for listening to #Paul Ponders, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our website, paulponders.com, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by PodPro Entertainment. #Paul Ponders lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #the new radio. Until we meet again, my friend, stay well. #Indeed.